Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about Travis Scott because he did an interview the other day, a very ill-advised interview. I just don't know what he was thinking with this. It's not going to help anyone or do anything. I don't think this changed anyone's opinion of him. If anything, this made him look worse probably. And the people that were most affected by this, I don't think they were really looking for an interview from him right now. And if he really had something to say to those people, then he could just say it to them in private. There's just really nothing to gain from this interview, and I don't know why he decided to do it, especially because he is not very good at communicating, as we'll see here in a second. And this is an hour-long interview, so he's only going to make himself look bad. He just doesn't really know what to say, and he just keeps saying the same stuff over and over again. I think he says about 300 or 400 times, and I'm not even exaggerating with that number. You'll see what I mean when I start playing some of these clips. It was just a complete disaster. I'm sure everyone was advising him not to do this. It was basically like that Instagram story he did soon after the concert, but just an hour of that with some questions sprinkled in there. And he just would have been a lot better off if he never did this interview. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he saw Alec Baldwin do one and he's like, maybe this is a good idea. Even though Alec Baldwin probably didn't help himself either with his interview. But he's at least an actor, so he can act emotional if he needs to. Like, Travis Scott is clearly not good at being emotional or talking about sensitive subjects, and he's just not very good at getting his thoughts out or communicating whatever he has to say. Alright, so now that I'm done hyping up this interview, let's check it out. Let's see what this guy has to say.
Travis Scott, what's up, brother?
What it do?
How you feeling?
I've been on about like different type of like emotions, emotional roller coaster.
Great start. Where's this guy's manager? How is he allowing him to do this? And he sounds high as fuck. Like, at least do this interview sober if you want to have any chance. And before I go any further, I just want to say, I don't think Travis is the only one responsible for what happened at Astroworld. Like, he is somewhat to blame, but there are a lot of other people that are also to blame. And hopefully when it's all said and done, the right people are held accountable for what happened.
And just, trying to wrap my head around it, I really wanted to be there. And just, wish you could just kind of like hold everyone, kind of just heal them, talk to them, have conversations. It really just hurts, man.
So I do believe that this guy feels really bad about what happened, and he probably sympathizes with all the people that were affected, but he is just really bad at showing it. He just does not seem very genuine here, and it sounds like he's just saying generic shit that would make himself look better. I don't know if he's like coached too much or he wasn't coached enough.
What's your intention with this conversation? Like what do you hope to get out of this, or what do you hope to get out?
I don't personally have an intention. I just feel like something happened, and I feel like it's just I needed just a way to kind of like communicate,
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. I would imagine he probably knew some of the questions he was going to be asked, but it just sounds like he's not prepared at all. And his answer to why he's doing this interview is just, I wanted a way to communicate. That's exactly the problem here. He's just doing this for himself. He's not doing this to help anyone else. He's just doing this to try to make himself look better. And he communicates nothing with this interview. He basically says, and for about an hour.
How have you been coping with the aftermath of everything? Just emotionally, just you as a human.
I've been just in a room for a while, a lot of thoughts, and luckily, people around that you can kind of bounce ideas, but it just been, I've been doing this for such a long time, and nothing like this ever happened, so it just kind of like, you just kind of figuring out, and at the end of the day, like, these fans are your family, so you just feel like you lost.
I feel like he just doesn't have any answers to these questions, and he just doesn't know what to say, so he just keeps going back to whatever he thinks is going to make himself look better. Like this question, it's kind of a stupid question, but you could have gave a pretty good response to this. You could have been like, it doesn't matter how I feel, I'm not important here and I'm alright. It matters how the people that are suffering feel. I just want to make sure that they're alright. And Charlamagne actually makes him look bad with the response he gave, because Travis's response was, I've just been in a room like with my own thoughts or whatever, and then Charlamagne says, well, everybody saw you golfing the other day with Mark Wahlberg and Michael Jordan.
Yeah, you said you was in the room, but then people saw you at the golf course.
Yeah,
with Michael
Thanksgiving,
Jordan
yeah.
and Mark Wahlberg. What was that?
It was just Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they were there. You know, it's just good people to have around in the community.
I'm actually pretty surprised that Charlamagne responded with that, because I thought this was just going to be like all softball questions and nothing really that makes him look bad, but that's pretty funny that he brought that up, because in the beginning, if Travis was doing a good job of getting the image in people's head that he's actually sitting around his house feeling miserable and feeling devastated by this and he can't do anything because he's just so overcome with emotion, then people will start to think that he actually cares and he feels some responsibility for this. But then you're reminded that he's out golfing with Michael Jordan and Mark Wahlberg, and you remember he went out to Dave & Buster's the night the whole tragedy happened, and you start remembering, wait a minute, this guy's still living the fucking life. He's not letting this get him down.
Now, let's talk about that night, man. When did you find out things got as bad as they did? Now, that's the question everybody wants to know.
Yeah, it wasn't really until like minutes until like the press conference until I figured out exactly what happened. You know, even after the show, you know, you just kind of hearing things, but you don't know. I didn't know the exact details until, you know, minutes before the press conference.
I don't remember exactly when the press conference was, like how soon after the concert was, but I'm pretty sure very soon after the concert, most people were aware of what happened. Like, I figured out from Twitter very soon after the concert, maybe before it even ended. I don't even know. And it's just hard to believe that he didn't know something was seriously wrong, like, very soon after the concert. Like, are you telling me nobody had social media or anything?
Yeah, people said they collectively heard folks screaming help every time you stopped the song to get your attention. Did you hear any of those screams?
Nah, man. And you know, it's so crazy because I'm that artist too. Like, you know, anytime you can hear something like that, you want to stop the show. You want to make sure, you know, fans get the proper attention they need, you know?
No, I don't know. I saw him stop the concert longer when somebody stole his shoe, and he stopped it just so people could attack the person that stole his shoe.
Stuff going on.
So it's hard to tell excitement from danger, so to speak?
Yeah, of course. Everything kind of just sounds the same. And at the end of the day, you just hear music, you know? And when you do, you just hear amongst of things, you know? But when you're in a show, you just enter the show, and anytime you can.
So I don't think that he knew people were out there dying during his concert, or he knew people were like seriously hurt, or anybody was even signaling to get his attention. He possibly didn't even know that, but he still definitely could have done more to help. And also, he's responsible for this kind of culture of just acting like a fucking maniac. Like, there are people jumping on an ambulance and blocking an ambulance from moving, and I don't even think he did anything to help with that.
Well, it wasn't that night, huh? You know, raging has been a part of the culture, you know, of your shows. You know, you didn't on this night, but in the past, you've encouraged, I guess, the kind of energy that could have led to something like this happening. Do you think that contributed to the energy of this night?
Yeah, nah, I think, you know.
Yeah, nah, he almost had it right. He almost said, yeah, it definitely contributed to this. Like, the people running through the gates and everything, these people are acting like animals, and something like this was waiting to happen. Like, all of his concerts are out of control.
You know?
Does raging make it harder to identify when something is going wrong in the crowd?
Well, I think, you know, raging is just you know, they have a textbook, you know, definition, but, you know, in concerts, we've grown it to be just an experience of having fun. It's not about just, harm.
I'm surprised Charlamagne's actually asking some difficult questions. Like, it's hard to respond to these. I understand why he's not really making any sense, and he's just mumbling and saying whatever he can to get by.
You know.
What headspace were you in when you posted that initial response video?
I mean, I think it had to have been the night of, you know? So I was just in a headspace of just trying to get a communication out to my fans, you know? I had little to no information, you know? So I was just trying to figure it out and just communicate to them, you know?
But what were you trying to communicate to them? You didn't have any information. I don't think he really said he was sorry or took any responsibility, really. It seems like he made that video to just try to make himself look better.
Do you regret that initial video? Do you regret reacting in that way, or not having all the information before you said something?
I mean, yeah, because, you know, you just don't know what's going on, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to get something out. You know, how my message came out, I can't.
And I bet he's gonna regret this interview, just like he regretted that video. Like, this is just such a bad idea. It's crazy. How did he not learn from that first video?
They said there there was like chaos and trampling being reported since the early afternoon, like hours before the show even started. Were you informed of any of that ahead of time?
Well, no, like, you know, the police, he came and to my trailer, and he congratulated me on, the event and, having something like this in Houston. He let me know that it was mishap at the merch booth earlier. They shut it down, but they opened it back up. They seemed to got it under control. He was gonna step out and just let us know if we need anything, have a good show.
So I think the police are very responsible for this too, like just as much as anybody else, maybe even more, because it sounded like they really weren't doing their jobs. Like there's videos of them taking pictures during the concert while all hell was breaking loose and just not really doing their jobs. And then also it sounded like afterwards they made up that story about people getting pricked with a needle and like people passing out, which turned out I think not to be true. I don't know, I could be wrong on that. Let me know if I am. But it just sounded like the chief of police maybe should have stopped the show, or it just sounded like he was letting Travis get away with way too much.
A lot of the criticism, from the tragedy, they say, is in the poor planning and understaffing of the event. As an artist, do you have any involvement in any of that?
Well, I mean, we just do, as an artist, you just do the creative. And for this being my festival, I got, bring artists, creatively produce it.
So the problem I think he really has here is the fact that this is his festival. Like if he was just the artist here and all that stuff happened, he probably wouldn't even be held liable for it, and he might not even face any charges.
How much do you feel a sense of responsibility for what happened that night?
Well, fans come to the show and have a good experience,
So this is another pretty tough question, and obviously he's not going to answer it, like in a debate when the moderator asks somebody a question and they're just not going to answer it and they're just going to try to work around it and they're just going to say whatever they think people want to hear. And he doesn't give a response to the question really, but his response isn't bad for this one, like compared to all the other ones. Like this one's actually somewhat decent because he pretty much says that he has the responsibility to figure out what happened and make sure this never happens again. That's not a bad response.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You think these festivals are too big, man? 50,000 people is a lot of people for anybody to control.
Yeah, there are festivals that are bigger, way bigger.
Yeah, that was a pretty stupid question. Like, this festival wasn't even that big, I don't think, compared to most festivals. Like, I know Metallica one time played in front of, I think, over 1 million people, and nobody really got that hurt, I believe.
Live Nation reportedly agreed to end the concert early after the Houston PD and the fire department declared it a mass casualty event, but the concert continued for another 40 minutes. Was there ever any communication to you on stage that you should end this?
Well, yeah, I mean, they just told me right after, the guests get off stage, we're going to end the show, and that's what we did. Other than that, there was no other communication.
Oh, so you mean after the guests? What you mean?
Yeah, after the guest comes out,
okay,
we're going to end the show. But it wasn't communication on why. It was just, that's what came through my ears,
Oh, so they didn't say stop now?
No.
Gotcha.
No.
I think this might be some new information. I don't remember hearing about like him being told to stop or whatever. And I think he's saying that they told him to stop once Drake got out there. I think that's what he's trying to say. I don't know. It's hard to understand. All right. So the rest of the interview is basically just the same shit over and over again. Like him talking about how something like this should never happen again. And he's going to do what it takes to make sure it never happens. And he's there for everyone. And he just wants to do the right thing here, which, I mean, I'm sure he's being sincere. Like, I'm sure this actually affected him, but this interview is just not a good look. And this interview was just completely unnecessary. He didn't really provide anything here. And right now probably wasn't the best time for this. So that's about it for this video. Make sure you hit the like button, then leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about all this, and then hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.